I mean, gosh. How long ago did we meet?
June of 2022.
Yeah, I think so. It's been 40 years. 22, 23, 24, 25. Wow. Well, I think that you are probably one of the most amazing men I've ever had the pleasure of meeting and calling a friend and helping. You are smarter and more talented than probably most of all the men I've ever known put together.
I don't know that, you know, on TikTok they teach us that being too smart is stupid. Which could be.
Well, I'm very honored to be here and helping you share a little bit of what's inside of you with everyone else today. So welcome everyone. And here we are today. And we have the pleasure of speaking with a remarkable fine arts painter, Mr. Loren Adams, on his very special 80th birthday. Yay! He made it!
I didn't know they stacked at your side, did you? Don't forget I'm a hillbilly from South Indiana.
So we're going to have the big party tomorrow, but as a little precursor, we wanted to take a few minutes and ask a few questions, do an interview, find out a little bit behind what's in his mind and share it with everyone. So Loren is known as the father of seascapes, and his work transcends traditional boundaries. It invites viewers to explore the depths of emotion and imagination. He has a background in both classical techniques and contemporary practices, and he's carved out a unique niche in the art world. Loren, thank you for joining us today and letting us pick your brain on what an amazing person you are.
Wow.
Your journey as an artist is fascinating, and I can't wait to dive into your creative process and the inspiration behind your stunning pieces.
Thank you. It's an honor to have somebody sit down and interview me, I suppose. It's only proper since, 80 revolutions around the sun. It's a big deal.
It's a very big deal.
It's been a lot of fun. I have no regrets.
Well, let's get started by asking about some of your early influences. Can you tell us about your early influences in painting, and then maybe what drew you to fine arts painting specifically?
Sure. Well, I grew up in a busy little family, and while everybody else was watching cartoons, I was sitting in the middle of the floor watching cartoons, but also drawing and, painting eventually. And then one day, I found a matchbook cover that said, "Draw the Lumberjack." So I did, and we sent it in. And the Famous Artist School sent a salesman to our door, and my mother bought the course. So I enrolled in the Famous Artist Schools, which was organized by Albert Dorn and Norman Rockwell. The school was quite famous. It was a correspondence course. And I only did 3 mail-in lessons because I felt a little disappointed that Norman Rockwell wasn't actually going to be my teacher, but I did enjoy the reference books, and I ended up collecting them. I have 3 full sets now, and they are a great reference to art as we know it today in America. Let's put it like that. After that, I just, I continued to paint. I was also in nursing school and trying to become an RN, and I was already an LPN. And I had never painted for money, but I had always painted, and I had shown a lot of the paintings in the solarium at this hospital where I worked in Roseville, California. Every day they would wheel the patients out in wheelchairs and reclining beds and put them around the fountain, and my paintings were hanging there. And my supervisor came to me and said, I want to buy one of your paintings. And I said, well, I've never done that. I didn't paint it for money. And she says, oh, please, let me buy one. And I said, oh, how do we do that? And she says, well, it's simple. You just go home tonight and think about it and tell me how much you want, and I'll write you a check. So I went home and I thought, wow. If I say 300, she'll think that's too much. If I say 75, she'll say, nah, And I decided right there, something that has stuck with me all these years. She has to want it more than I do. So when I arrived at the office the next day, I said, I want $300, and she got out her wallet and wrote the check. I went to Director of Nurses and resigned. And I've been painting full-time ever since that day.
What year was that? Do you remember?
1967.
And how many paintings do you think you've painted since then?
Oil paintings, watercolors, and experimental things, at least 1,000. I don't really like to sell the originals, so I prefer to sell limited editions of the paintings, and of those we sold 3,500 throughout the world. Certified limited editions, small editions, less than 100, most of them, a few, 150. And does that answer the question?
Absolutely. What other type of work have you done in the artistic field?
In the artistic field?
Other than painting, have you done anything to contribute to art?
Well,
that you'd like to share?
I like to make things. So yeah, I started off with hammers and saws and screwdrivers. I'm just like any other guy, if you wander through a big place where they got lots of tools, I'm a tool hog. You can hardly wait to go home and try this or that, you know what I mean? So yeah, I like to make things. Irregardless, I try to feel a lot of things, even with lathe turning, but mostly fabrication, ceramics. I like paper mache, making things out of wood, and then fashioning them into objects that I paint, all different shapes. I have my own art form called Vestibules. One of them toured all of the museums in Canada for 3 years as a new art form. I have tried a lot of the newfangled things, but I'm a little leery of having AI help me do anything. It kind of reminds me of a story. My father came time to visit me, and he said, "Son, you need any help on your chicken coops?" Because I was raising birds in those days. And he says, "I'll be happy to give you a little money so you can build a bigger cage." And I said, "No, Papa, I want to figure it out all by myself." That's something I'm not sure I have in common with anybody else on the planet. I really do want to figure it out myself. So I'm hesitant, even though I've heard a lot of great things about AI these days. But now I see that it's a competition of special effects sponsored by the suckers who buy into it. I do all my own special effects by hand. I probably painted near 500,000 stars by hand because it's fun, and I'm practicing those little involutes. Practice makes perfect. Did that answer the question?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
So, are there any other careers or jobs or ways that you've influenced the art world with your talents and gifts?
Well,
That you'd like to share?
well, my buddy Sammy Hager says I'm the best bleeping accordion player on the planet. And I was, in fact, the first act on stage at the grand opening of the Cabo Wabo Cantina. I opened for Van Halen. That's a fact. And Sammy and I are childhood friends. I halfway expect him to phone in tomorrow night. I know Andrew Annenberg phoned in already today. So his birthday was 2 days before mine, but we often have shared birthday parties together, especially when he lived here on Maui. I miss Andrew. He's another guy. Does pretty much the same kind of stuff I do.
Fantastic.
Next question, I guess.
So, as far as your artistic evolution, how has your style evolved over the years? And are there particular experiences or moments that have significantly shaped your work?
Good series of questions. Well, yes, excited and influenced. I would do a lot of paintings for a show, and you'd have maybe 20 paintings in a show, and they opened the show and somebody would walk in and buy the wave. And that really kind of annoyed me after a few years, that I was just the guy who painted waves. And yes, I paint the best waves, in my opinion, but I'm sure everybody else who paints waves feels exactly the same as me. What else could I believe? You know what I mean? So, I've studied waves. It sounds like a good racket, but there, in fact, there's 8 million miles of shoreline on planet Earth. There's 55 cities, towns, villages that are on the coastline, and over 80% of the population lives within 80 miles of a coastline. And so, anybody that visits any of these areas, if they've got a gift shop, you could paint a wave, or in the case on Maui, a whale's tail slapping the top of the water, and just a wave flapping up on the beach, and you can make a livelihood from that. I've taught a lot of people to do exactly that, and many of them never evolved beyond painting waves flapping up on the beach. But as I started adding intellectual content, reading books and educating myself and wanting to know what does make people relate to art. First, it's pretty pictures. That's the first thing. Doesn't make any difference how brilliant the idea is.
I believe something with your father. But we don't have to go back to that. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah, no, it was a comment my dad made. Now I can't remember what that was, but enough said. The style developed as I read books. I was raised in the church, spent my life in the ministry. I left the LDS church on good terms. Was bored to tears with the alphabet, and no need to recite all of the hymns I'd memorized over the years, because God told me to paint. And so I certainly know how to behave well, because that's all I've ever done. But I've found that there's power in limits, and if you take less and do a lot with it. In many ways, I laugh and say I'm a hillbilly from Indiana. But it's really true. If you have lemonades, you open a lemonade stand. I've opened one hell of a lemonade stand. And everybody else is welcome to do that too. But are they willing to paint 10, 12, 14 hours every day for 58 years? Then what? And I've been asking myself that question too. But so far I've never found anything I cannot paint if I decide it's important enough to me to paint it. I took 3 semesters of fashion illustration, so I know how to paint women too, but just like in the basements of most museums, there is ecclesiastical art stacked in boxes. The crucifixion, the Last Supper, all of the typical Bible stories. Traditional art is good for influence. Like one of my favorites is, Botticelli's Allegory of Spring. But because it's more than just a painting, you have to think too, to look at it. But now back to what I was saying originally, and that's that I paint pretty pictures. That's deliberate, because I want to make art that is pleasant to be in the company of while one is eating dinner. Not something that belongs in a specimen drawer, or you can have a great collection of modern art. I have one myself, and there's 12 drawers, 40 by 60, and you can have a lot of stuff in there, but on the wall in your dining room, gotta be pretty special. And that's the spot that I always paint for. It's what I'm auditioning for every time I make a painting, is for that spot on somebody's wall in their dining room. Not in their bedroom, not in their foyer, in their dining room. So in simple terms, I'm just a guy that makes pretty pictures, and I'm dang good at it. And, comparative to what else is being offered, yeah, I'm a genius, I'm a savant, but that's a so what too. I'd rather believe there's millions of people just as talented as I am than to think that I'm special. That would be a sign of poor mental health. And I love sharing with others, so the purpose of the development of painting is, it's a language. And so I speak the language pretty good, and then when I see somebody else that's just learning to use art materials, all I'm looking for is sincerity. That's all. And you can take it to the nth degree. Doesn't matter what books you read. Moby Dick would make a nice painting. Let's see. Alice in Wonderland would make a nice painting. It's all been done, right? Not your version. You can do your own version, right? Lately I've evolved into doing my own version of the Norse Yggdrasil tree, the tree of all knowledge and wisdom. It's a place where you can go where everything is known before you open your mouth. While I was studying the Yggdrasil tree of the Norse mythology, I decided that, wow, there's a lot of people who have done drawings of these incredible trees with all these different levels to them. One of them reaching all the way up into the clouds. That night I had a dream, and so I've been working on that painting too, on day 47 on my own, my mystical treehouse. I call it allegory because it also has countless faces looking back at the viewer, many eyeballs that people will discover over the years, and other sacred symbols, and eye writing, lots of things that people who look for intellectual treasures will find because they've looked for a long while. So that my idea of my latest masterpiece, but then I might feel that way about the next one too, because I'm all in on whatever I do. Otherwise, it would be a waste of art materials, right?
Absolutely. Well, that brings me to the next question, is about your connection to nature. And what does nature mean to you, and how does it inspire your work?
Good question. You remember the Buddha's story on studying the leaf or the lotus flower. If you look close enough at anything, one single leaf, if you really study how one leaf is made, all the way out to the nth degree, you'll find a map of the way everything is made. And all leaves have a semi-basic shape, and then that is also altered by adding the other sacred shapes to them. 4 points, 5 points, 6 points, 7, 9, etc., and then multi-leaf. But if you take even a multi-leaf apart and examine it closely, it's identical to the larger single leaf. It's just tinier. When you walk around in nature and pretend you're flying at 1,000 feet instead of just walking 4 foot off the ground, you'll notice that all of the little tiny plants are proportionally identical to the way they would be, including their proportional sizes as they are in the large version. Broccoli looks just like a giant oak tree. But see, this is the way artists think. We don't think like everybody else. We think in basic shapes: the sphere, the cone, the cylinder, and the cube, and all of the alterations that go between that, and the possible combinations.
Well,
It's hard to
go ahead.
hard to pin down.
That leads us to our next question, is about your techniques and materials. And can you describe some of your process when you're creating a landscape painting?
Sure. I'm a traditional oil painter, and by that we'll go back. Out of all of the time-honored art forms, oil painting on linen canvas is the most time-honored. Egg tempera have specimens that have actually lasted longer, but not as well painted. But some of the Flemish artists did very well at either. These days, take two, and I forgot the question.
Yeah. Can you describe your process when creating a landscape painting? And then the next part of that is, what techniques do you find the most effective in conveying the beauty of the natural world?
Oh, yeah.
So process and techniques.
Yeah. Well, that I was going back to the hierarchy of painting. The most respected fine art is oil painting on canvas. And the genre is architecture, people in period costume, historical significance, intellectual stimulation, and of course it must be well painted. That's the criterion. The category my work fits into specifically is decorative art. That's why I am a fine arts painter, not an artist, because I don't strive to paint the human form in period costume, in historical perspective to architecture of the time to tell a story of historical significance. That is the highest rung on the ladder. That's what's in the top drawer. I'm a decorative painter, and I'm one of the best who has ever lived.
I agree, absolutely. After seeing just a few of your pieces.
The traditional oils, I like premium Winsor Newton, Talent, Rembrandt, Amsterdam. I like Selectless by Grumbacher, but pretty much I can make any color I want just with using titanium white, alizarin crimson, Naples yellow, and I hate to say it, phthalocyanide blue. With those and ivory black, I can mix anything I can see. I forgot, yeah, no, I got alizarin crimson in there, that's first. But you get to, you can do it without thinking. If I see something, I've already mixed the color. As soon as I've seen it, I've already mixed that color. But that's 58 years talking. That's not normal, right? At least I don't think so. And so it's good to think that way. And that frees up the mind to just do what you're supposed to be doing. I like painting the air. That's, if I have a goal in mind, establishing what looks like the air in the consciousness of the viewer is one of my goals. I'm getting better at it. And it's all because I practice all those little invalids and all those little stars and moons, suns. Practice makes perfect.
So as far as challenges, what are some of the biggest challenges you face as a painter, and how do you overcome them?
Well, it depends on the goal. I mean, the Stabiles, the first one took 16 years. So, you know, when you go to university, instant gratification is one of the first things you learn. As soon as you start learning that, you know, okay, well, if you want to get your degree, it's going to be this long, and you have to apply yourself and do this, and then you get it. So you get used to setting a long-term goal. So most of the Stabiles are at least a year, 2 years in the making, each one of them. I've done 7 so far. Largest one stands 7 feet in the middle of the room. But that is totem. And what totem is explained by the Inuit Indians the best. If they want to get a good job carving, they have to have a totem. And then people see the totem, and then they want a carving by that guy. So in a similar process, you need to have something huge to get attention and interest, and then people gravitate to their own usefulness of something that large, you know. Jacobean wood piece with all of the chairs and everything that would just look ridiculous in a small apartment, but it wouldn't make any sense to have anything too large in a trailer either, or in a mini house. I jump back and forth. I love miniatures as much as I do large things. My largest piece is 8 feet by 35 feet. The smallest one is 1.5 inches by 2 inches. I did a lot of miniatures, maybe 30 or 40 of them. Tiny miniatures, but that teaches you to tighten up on small areas. And let's see, I'm wandering off topic.
Oh, that's spectacular. Fascinating. Let's see here. What else would we like to know about you today? How about cultural impact? How do you think your work contributes to the conversation about environmental issues or the appreciation of nature?
Well, I definitely think my work helps people return to the appreciation of nature and natural beauty. But culturally speaking, I just flat out believe and am trying to convince everybody else that this is heaven. And the reason for that is just the simple dialogue in the current vernacular that everything is a simulation. Well, if this is a simulation, this is heaven. Because if it's all being decided by your own mind and you are deciding this, and there's an option, which one you gonna pick? This is heaven to me. Prove otherwise. And yeah, there's a lot of people suffering, but that's something that is the results of their karmic debt. And, maybe they're the last one in their family tree that's solving that riddle. Art will always be an important part of society, and as a social polarization factor, society needs art in order to feel the state of freedom. That's the reason why people are buying art materials. That's the reason why they're selling lots of guitars and pianos and keyboards and lots of instruments. That expressive urge is part of what man is. We are gods in embryo. Nobody's surprised that the seed of a strawberry makes a strawberry, or the seed of a watermelon makes a watermelon. The seed of a buffalo makes a buffalo. The seed of the living God makes the living God. We are baby gods. This is our testing ground. We're learning our training wheels, how to talk to each other, and how to treat each other when we get to heaven. Well, it begins here and now. Prove this is not heaven. Because in my world, this is heaven.
Wow, those are some pretty amazing words. That leads me again to my next question about legacy and influence. And what do you hope your legacy will be in the art world? And how would you like future generations to perceive your work?
Well, I have no lust for eminence. When I'm planted in the ground, that'll be the end for me. I'm not looking forward to anything anymore. I at one time thought that I would like to go to a different place than this, but it's just not true anymore. And how I got here was a surprise. And what happens next, it's okay with me if that's a surprise too. As far as influencing others, I know that I have influenced them. I've seen it. I have never visited the mainland and walked into a gallery that didn't see a copy of one of my works, or a replica, or some of them insulting, some of them, all they do is bring a tear to my eye because I know that somebody was watching and they saw that much at least. That feels good. So I know I will influence others. My main collectors actually believe that I am the greatest seascape artist who's ever lived, and some of them even believe I'm Ivan Ivachowski reincarnated. But I can't afford to believe that. That would greatly put a strain on my here and now, because I can say, yep, them guys did it right too. And when you do it right, that's how it always was. So, the closer you come to perfection is discovered by how deep you go in the tunnel. With some paintings, you know, as soon as you've started them, you know you're not going to be spending very much time on them. So, and other ones, you don't care if it takes forever to finish them. They got you, and there's no time there. See, that's the part you get. That's the reason why guys like me will never fit in a mainstream art game and the brick and mortar art business. I would greatly slow down how fast them eye-level wall space is selling art. Because people would stop and enjoy it. That's what it's for. I'm sharing my joy.
Well, with your joy, is there a particular painting that holds a special meaning for you? And if so, would you be willing to share the story behind it? Or some of your favorites?
Well, the awakening of love, that one right there, is the result of my trip to the cliff. I didn't want to be here anymore. And instead of jumping off the cliff, I said, what would I like to do? I've spent my life pleasing other people and being a good preacher and a good missionary boy and a good singer and a good this and a good that and a perfect dad and a perfect husband and all this superficial horseshit that doesn't matter. I was very good at it, and I'm not ashamed of the fact that it enabled me to become a really good person that I love and respect. It's just that I outgrew the training wheels, that's all. Somebody wants to know who Jesus is, I will kindly tell them. If they want to know who Buddha is, I will kindly tell them. I read a lot of different sacred texts, including the Ethiopian text, the Sumerian text, the Keys of Enoch, the Book of Enoch, and the Book of Thomas is my favorite. There are no rules. And once you know that, you're not comfortable with people who insist on there being rules. So, living an exemplary life as a fine arts painter is showing other people how to escape the matrix as far as I'm concerned. They don't have to listen. They can go inside, shut the door, get some art materials, and either throw a temper tantrum or make something pretty.
So what is important to you now? All those things are not so consequential. What is your bliss?
Carrying my ashes to the mountain without leaving any single debt, resolving all conflicts with every human, and getting out of this life with a clear conscience.
That sounds like quite a good bucket list.
I would rise to the occasion to do anything, including hang gliding, if that propensity was actually there, but it's not. See, I always said I'm never going to be a guy who just sits back in the rocking chair and watches the sunset. And yet here we are. I don't have anywhere near as much physical ambition as I did 10 years ago, and none of that matters. I guess you could say I'm a happy guy if nothing else happens. I've done more than any 10 men have. That's what the evidence is. That's empirical evidence too, not just hearsay.
So are there any upcoming projects or themes that you're excited to explore in some of your future work?
Yeah, I'm seriously thinking of re-entering the emerging artist marketplace with John Doe paintings. And on the same show, it'll be a live show. I'm going to do a 25 brushstroke picture within the first 5 minutes while mixing the palette. And then I'm going to do a 55-minute picture once a day, live, and it'll be auctioned, bidding beginning at $1 plus shipping. And the reason I'm doing that is not necessarily for the money, but to experiment with how much fun it is to do that again. To go and see, wow, we sold 4 of these little things today. And if they want Lauren Adams on the pictures, that's available for another $1,000. If they want my name on it, otherwise it's Leroy McGillicuddy. This is the Leroy McGillicuddy show. That's going to be my new handle on TikTok. As soon as the latest picture is done,
Nice.
we start going on once a day for an hour and selling. They'll go right to the showcase where they will be available.
That's fantastic. I'm very excited about that. Okay, so the last question I have here for you today, well, I'll have 2 more. This one is, what advice might you give to young artists who are looking to pursue a career in painting?
Don't make any other plans. The family that you were with at the time will not be there after you make that transition. All of the people that were in your life that you loved and entertained with and conversed with will no longer be there. You'll have a whole brand new life after you decide to, quit. I quit my day job, and I'd rather be dead than not having quit my job, because it was an awful job. I worked as an emergency room orderly. I ran a crash cart on a major freeway, and almost nobody lived. And I went home every night with a broken heart. I did closed heart massage, and I just got tired of seeing people die. And so when the director bought one of my paintings, I could hardly wait to get out of there. So if you got enough incentive, I once cut a lawn with a pair of scissors, and for extra cash, put curb numbers on curbs in front of residences. I found out Eddie Van Halen did that too. That's one of our fun conversations we had. It's like, you'll do what you need to do, as long as it's with a paintbrush or a pair of scissors. You gotta make things. That's, when you're on your hands and knees in the grass, looking at things, there's a whole lot of different view and a whole new slew of little bugs and stuff that you need to learn the names of, if you want to. I do. I've always been all in on whatever I focused on. And in the people department, that's literally scared a lot of people away. Sorry to say.
Well, you're not scaring me away today. I guess I'd like to end by saying, is there anything that we haven't talked about or missed that you'd like to share with your fans and audience today? Any closing thoughts?
Okay. Never give up on your dreams. That's good. I can't think of anything else. Never give up on your dreams.
That's perfect. So as we wrap up this very insightful conversation, I want to thank you, Lauren, for sharing your thoughts and experiences with us tonight. Your passion for art and your unique perspective on creativity truly inspire us all. It's clear to me that your journey is not just about creating beautiful pieces, but also about connecting with people on a deeper level. We look forward to seeing how your work evolves in the future and the impact it will continue to have on the art community. Thank you once again for your time, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed getting to have my say. I guess that'll be the hillbilly way to say it.
That's pretty fantastic. Alana Perillo signing off here with Lauren Adams on his most wonderful 80th birthday.
Aloha.